Today, we are diving into an absolutely fascinating story. It's a high-stakes standoff over a bridge. But forget about tanks and soldiers. This is a masterclass in modern economic warfare, a conflict fought not with force, but with pure, uncut strategy. And it all kicks off with one simple question. I mean, really think about that. In a world where all of our economies are tangled together, how does one country, especially one that's not the biggest player on the field, stand up for itself? Well, the answer isn't about flexing military muscle. It's about leverage. It's about finding the pressure points. And, maybe most importantly, it's about turning your opponent's own logic right back on them. And here it is. This is the spark that lit the whole fuse. A statement from the US president basically saying, hey, we can change the rules on this critical bridge whenever we want. Now, this was meant to be a classic hardball power play, right? An assertion of dominance. But what they didn't realize is that they just handed their opponent the perfect opening for a completely different kind of game. So how did Canada respond to this? Not with angry press conferences or threats. Nope. They responded with this calm, calculated, and incredibly intelligent opening gambit called the Mirror Protocol. This wasn't about starting a fight. It was about fundamentally changing the rules of engagement. The US wanted to play hardball, but Canada decided it was time for a hockey game instead. The philosophy behind this whole thing is something the source material calls economic jujitsu. And the idea is it's brilliant. You don't meet force with more force. You don't get into a slugging match. Instead, you accept your opponent's logic, their premise, and you use their own momentum to flip them on their back. So Canada immediately put this jujitsu into practice, mirroring the US logic in three really critical areas. First step, energy. You know that nice discount on Canadian oil the US was getting? Poof, gone. From now on, you pay the full global price. Second, taxes. That 3% digital services tax that had been put on hold, well, it's back, and it's retroactive. And third, resources. Those stable, long-term permits for things like uranium and potash, not anymore. They just became dynamic pulses, changing constantly, sometimes every few hours. In this line, from the Canadian Prime Minister's letter to the White House, it just captures the tone perfectly. It's so polite, so professional, but it's using the president's own words, reassess, to justify a complete upending of economic policy. It's like saying, oh, we're being flexible now? Great idea. We'll be flexible too. This is that polite protest that's actually a declaration of economic war. Okay, so the Mirror Protocol, that was just the opening face-off. The real pressure was about to start. A meticulously planned 3-week escalation designed to systematically grind all cross-border logistics to a halt. And this whole plan was designed to be exponential. Week 1 was about introducing chaos, making things unpredictable. Week 2, they doubled the difficulty. And by week 3, it was 4 times harder to operate than before this all started. The goal here wasn't just to make things hard. It was to make doing business so unpredictable that it became basically impossible. So week 1 was all about vaporizing predictability. Just imagine you're running a shipping company. The rules for getting your trucks across the border are completely different in the afternoon than they were in the morning. On top of that chaos, Canada started 100% manual inspections of every single US vehicle. And they did it under the totally plausible excuse of looking for illegal guns and drugs. It created these massive, painful bottlenecks. Then we get to week 2. And the strategy becomes a lot more direct and a lot more painful. The rule changes sped up, now happening every 8 hours. And this is when Canada deployed what the plan calls the energy hammer. This chart really shows you the direct hit. Canada slapped a new $15 per barrel sovereignty fee on oil. The result? Gas prices in key states like Michigan and Ohio jumped by about 80 cents a gallon, almost overnight. But it wasn't just about gas. They also put an 8-hour hold on critical medical supplies, things like insulin precursors, hitting the US pharmaceutical supply chain right where it hurts. Week 3. This is the ghost horizon. And this is where the strategy shifts from economic pain to something that looks a lot like outright infrastructural sabotage. This is the most aggressive phase, and it was designed to attack the very systems that modern trade relies on to function. The attack came on 3 fronts. Protocol 44 was a digital assault on data itself. At the same time, Protocols 45 and 47 went after the physical world, things like water, power, and communications. This was a full-spectrum assault on the ability to do business. So that digital attack, Protocol 44, it was called the Silicon Siphon. And what it did was throttle all data crossing the border down to just 56 kbps.
Yes, you heard that right. That is 1990s dial-up speed. You can't run a modern just-in-time logistics network on a dial-up modem. It's a kill switch for the digital age.
And the physical attacks were just as sneaky. Protocol 45 involved some conveniently timed maintenance on water valves in the Great Lakes, which, what a coincidence, forced nearby U.S. power plants to cut their output. Then, Protocol 47 created what they called a sovereign silence, a total cellular and radio blackout within 5 kilometers of the border. It just severed the communication nervous system for trucks, border agents, and businesses. So all of this, the chaos, the economic pain, the sabotage, it was all building towards one final moment, one final move designed to create absolute, total paralysis. The checkmate. And on the 66th day of this meticulously planned operation, the final phase was triggered. This was the masterstroke. All 28 of those constantly shifting rules, the hoops companies had to jump through, they were all activated at the same time. A giant countdown timer even appeared on the bridge itself, ticking down to, what? Nobody knew. No explanation was given, and that created the one thing that no logistics corporation can handle: total, crippling uncertainty. Everything just stopped. But here's the truly brilliant part. The plan wasn't just about inflicting pain. It also had a built-in off-ramp. It gave the U.S. administration a way to back down, a way to retreat without it looking like a total defeat. And this off-ramp was called the North American Secure Trade Accord. It cleverly took all of Canada's aggressive, hostile measures and just rebranded them. They became a cooperative joint security program. Just like that, conflict was magically transformed into collaboration. This table lays it all out. The public story was that the U.S. president's tough stance made Canada secure the border. He got to claim a political win. But the actual result? Well, the bridge opened on schedule with 100% Canadian ownership, all those painful economic pulses turned green, and those special interest lobbyists who started this whole mess, they were left completely out in the cold. And that leaves us with this final thought to chew on. In this deeply interconnected world we live in, maybe the most powerful weapon isn't a missile or an aircraft carrier. Maybe it's a dynamic pulse, the ability to take the very systems of trade and data that tie us all together and turn them into a powerful tool of national sovereignty.